folks. Welcome to an episode of the Artenders with Mac and Dan. I am Dan, he is Mac.
Howdy.
So, listen, a few things on the docket really fast. Now, we were going to record this episode, Mac, a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
However, we both chose, and when I say we both chose, it means I sort of was like, hey, and then you were like, hey, that's cool too. Let's both do that. And so
I fully support it. You can throw me under the bus as well.
We went and saw a Dallas Mavericks Miami Heat game.
Yeah, which
I don't regret our decision at all. However,
well, he doesn't regret it because the Heat won.
The Heat won, and I know we're sort of like dating this podcast a little bit, but I just I don't know. I want to get it out there that this should have been done sooner than it is now.
It's
been delayed by a whole last week.
It's also that we had to be very specific about our timing for this viewing experience because it was something that we had to view in theaters.
Yes.
So we both very clearly saw it about a week ago.
And I think like a week and a half ago for me.
I think
for
me,
very
it was
nearly 2 weeks.
8 days ago.
Yes, and what we were discussing, and also giving that context, it does sort of inflect into what we're about to say because now we're a little bit more detached from our initial viewing experience. What we're discussing,
I'm pretty attached.
What we're discussing today is a movie called Lamb. It is produced by A24. It's one of those A24 films. It is a film
of those, I can't agree more.
It's a film set in Iceland. It is starring Noomi Rapace, and just want to say that this is when we really butcher everybody's names.
I mean, the whole movie, this whole podcast is going to be us butchering names.
And also starring Hilmir Snær Gunnarsson and Bjorn Linner Haraldsson. And I think it's directed by Valdemar Johansson. Those are my stabs into the dark. Also directed by
we'll say Johansson. We'll say Johansson for the most of the podcast.
Our buddy Joe, you know.
Yes, Joe.
This is a movie about a couple, who lives on a farm, and they are helping at one point assisting. Wow, I'm butchering this. Their sheep to give birth, and it's
graphic.
Yeah.
Like I'm pretty sure there's no other way. We watched a live sheep birth.
You know, I have no idea. If you can actually hop on this.
Yeah, of course.
And
I don't think there's another way they could have done that.
For you, yeah. Let me know if you find anything. But, so a big thing that happens in this film.
Was that a live sheep birth? Go ahead, sorry.
They're helping some of their sheep give birth, and one of them produces a child, which is seemingly like a sheep head and one sheep arm, and then the rest is human. And so they decide to caretake for this child, and that's essentially the movie. And at one point, Ingvar, who is the husband in this couple, to Noomi Rapace's Maria, his brother comes along, Peter, and just things sort of happen. I mean, so Mac, did you find anything on?
Yeah, no. I found a pretty funny title for an article. It's from Polygon.com. The title is "Live Sheep Births Were a Top Priority for Lamb Director," and then the subtitle is "With only 10 pregnant sheep left, the crew had to hustle."
So, and that's cool to hear. That's cool to hear that Johansson had a very deep priority into the sort of visual style into this film, and I think it definitely showed. And clearly, he did not care about the overall storytelling that this film had.
Yeah,
so
the cinematographer did just as much work as the director, which should not be the case.
Yes. So let's get on the positives really fast.
Yeah.
And I also want to mention that this is the highest grossing Icelandic film of all time, and I challenge you, viewer and or listener, to think of another Icelandic film, and and for us Americans, I can't think of another one. So
I don't know if I can.
And so I commend the sort of like filmmaking for it to be set in Iceland and be so profoundly Icelandic and sort of be its own little folk tale, right?
Yeah, nope, can't think of one.
And so I do appreciate the movie for that, and like being set where not a lot of films and stories are just generally set, and so it provides a sort of different texture to everything that is the storytelling of this film. But I think the cinematography is very well done. I think there are moments, particularly in the first chapter of this film, where it's like storytelling and emotion is done through the animals,
Yeah.
just like as if the animals are truly their own characters,
Yeah.
right? And they're not like, we're not talking like Homeward Bound sort of stuff where like the animals
Homeward
are
Bound.
talking.
Oh my god.
But what
Danny.
we have here is that like there may be
Oh.
a shot on the cats like looking at Ada, who is the sheep child,
Yeah.
and like it's just that shot where it's just like storytelling is being conveyed there, or like the sheep looking around at any sort of noise or trying to escape their pens when the big bad sheep monster approaches. Spoiler, I guess. And but it's like the storytelling through the animals was probably the most impressive part when it came to the overall storytelling of this film, like allowing the sort of animals to embody their own sort of characters as opposed to like props or set pieces, which I think was very, very impressive that the film did.
Well, one of the things that I'm assuming this is clear. Tell me if this is a wrong assumption to make.
Okay.
That the Ram Man, which is what the filmmakers call it,
Ran.
The Ran, the sheep monster.
Yeah.
He assumedly, like all the shots that you saw early on in the film of the sheep freaking out in the middle of the night was because the Ram Man was coming into the bin and having sex with the sheep, right?
Or like one, or
at least
like,
one. Yeah, there's no other way for the baby to have been born, right?
And there's not really much of an explanation to it, which I'm sort of fine with. Like I am permitting this movie to have some sort of mystery to it, I guess, in some regard as to what exactly this Ram Man is, but whatever. Yeah, as you were saying.
Yeah, but I will say this about the movie's cinematography and overall storytelling, that I think what made it so frustrating, such a frustrating movie,
here we go.
is that because the cinematography was gorgeous in terms of the actual beauty and symmetry and story in each individual shot. It was extremely impressive, which I think is why it's so highly revered, especially at film festivals, artistic film festivals.
And like even something as simple as like the lighting and the color, and just like it feels cold. Like, I mean, at least for me in my experience, when I was sitting in the movie theater, like I felt that much more cold.
I agree, yeah.
Purely from how this film was shot and the lighting and the color. It was as if you were transplanted into that setting, which I thought was very, very impressive.
Yeah. I can definitely agree with that. There's also a bit of it that's the cinematography. Okay, actually, each individual shot of the movie. There's really, in my mind, you can separate two different types of shots. There are shots where you have to interpret what the story of the shot is, what the shot means, right? And then there are shots that are extremely clear storytelling moments, that they're telling you exactly what's happening in the story. And most of the time, like 90% of the movie is storytelling shots, and then 10% is whatever you want to take from it, right? Like if we're looking at like the average American film, like fucking Fast and Furious or whatever's, or like Marvel, like whatever's in the box office right now.
Sure.
Most of it is storytelling. Very little of it is an interpretation.
Yeah.
This movie's a good 50-50, if not even more interpretive shots.
Probably one of the most jarring shots of that example that you noted was there is just this moment where Ingvar is just looking at Ada, and then all of a sudden, like it looks like a flashback or a flash forward, but it's neither of those things. It's just Ingvar running through this like marsh. He trips, he falls, he gets back up, he keeps running, and then he just stands there and yells Ada, and then it just zooms back to Ingvar looking at Ada.
It's like a vision.
Makes no fucking sense.
Yeah, and if you're able to make something of it, congrats to you.
Yeah.
But that's the best they can give.
And I like to, and in this film's defense, which is in my personal opinion, there's not much of. That is the most egregious example.
Yeah.
Where it was just like that felt so disjointed from the rest of the storytelling of this film that it just felt like that place for that moment wasn't necessarily warranted nor earned.
Right. It would be as if, imagine you're watching a very artistic movie, right? And it could be about anything. And there's just a shot of a barn with like a bunch of wood in the foreground, right? And you're just staring at this barn for like, not actually minutes, but like, let's say you're staring at this barn for a good 10 seconds. And on the 11th second, a piece of wood in the foreground just tips over and falls down. And then the shot moves on. And you're like, okay, why the fuck did I stare at that for 10 seconds? If you're able to figure out why that wood falling down was important, which objectively, that can't mean anything to the story. There's, you know what I mean? Like, if
like,
you're
it
able
means
to
something
assign meaning to it,
thematically.
then congrats.
But I feel like that hold on, but like that example, I feel fits more thematically than the shot that I described from the movie. Well, because I'm still actively thinking about that shot, and I'm just like, that shot made, like, that moment, that little snippet of a scene made no particular sense.
Yeah, no matter how much since you try to prescribe it, it doesn't.
Yeah, and like also like I think what is both to the film's benefit and absolute detriment is how much is not said. You know?
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
think...
they never actually say anything. I mean, a big part of the movie is Pieter and Maria's affair.
Yeah.
That just starts happening.
Well, hold on. From my understanding, they've had this affair before.
No, right. But I'm saying that, like, you just started witnessing it as the audience. There was no, like, ease into it. It's just like the husband leaves the room. Pieter starts flirting with Maria.
Buddy, I am fine with that. That's just given circumstances for the character. I am fine with that. And I am also fine with them never explicitly saying, hey, we've lost a child and or children.
Yeah.
You know, hence why there was already a crib that was made.
Yeah.
Hence why Maria is at this small graveyard. Like, this is like, I am fine with all of this. What I am not fine, dialogue-wise, is, okay, so we're just never going to acknowledge how fucking weird it is that there is a sheep man that was just a sheep girl, I guess, that was just birthed from the sheep. We're never going to discuss, like, what is actually happening right here. We're just going to accept it, and then the only time a character's like, what the hell is going on, is halfway through the movie. Like... Yeah. I'm willing to suspend my disbelief, right, where a sheep girl is born. I'm willing to suspend my disbelief. I'm willing to suspend my disbelief that there is a ram man that's this weird beast thing that impregnates said sheep. I am fine with that. What I am not fine with, all of a sudden, is that when you base this story sort of like in reality, and then you have these people who we want to believe as people who are actually going through the situation, and then to have them react as unnatural as possible.
Yeah.
There's just no semblance of sort of... Because I think what would have made it more interesting to me is, like, you have this unreal situation that's blended into reality. Mm-hmm. But it was this unreal situation that once it entered, then reality just didn't exist anymore, and then everything just became unreal, as opposed to being blended into reality, at least in terms of Maria and Ingvar, right? The movie actually gets interesting when Pieter is in the room. Yeah. That's when, like, actual conflict happens.
Right.
Because for the first 30, 45 minutes of this film, there is no there is conflict. The conflict is strictly between Maria and Ingvar and their sort of, like, very, very stale sort of relationship. But there is no active conflict, right? That is, like, going on, right? That what changes that situation was Ada being born. But they were not actively working for, against, with the conflict with each other. What that felt like more was just a given circumstance, as opposed to, like, an actual conflict that they're actively dealing with. Yeah. Instead, what we saw for 30 minutes was them just sort of doing their duties, which is fine, and I'm fine for a slow cooking character drama. I'm fine for a Boyhood. I'm fine for a When Marnie Was There. I'm fine for a Spirited Away.
Yeah.
I'm fine for these films that take its time for its characters. What I'm not fine for is a film that take its time, but then there is no character.
Yeah.
I know I just injected so many takes
Yeah,
into
I
there,
was
so
like,
wherever you
I
want
don't
to
even-
puncture it from,
I'm just gonna try and just pick up from
just
where you
pick
left
up
off.
wherever the hell you want to pick up. I'm sure we'll
No,
wrap around to anything,
I'm
but
sure.
I just with like a Rolodex, I was just rolling through multiple takes that I had. It was just all built up for weeks.
Sure. The big thing for me with the character stuff, it bothered, and lots of movies bother me in this way, that there is clearly a most interesting and wild part of this movie.
Yes.
What would that be, Danny? What would be the most shocking and insane part of this movie if you were to look at just the arc, the story?
It's either one of two things. The Lamb Child was born, or the Ram Man comes out of nowhere and
Right.
shoots Ingvar in the neck.
That's exactly fucking right, Danny. There's no getting away from the fact that every person on God's green earth will look at this movie and be like, I'm sorry, what the fuck just happened? To either them seeing the half human, half lamb body or the Ram Man, right?
Yeah.
It bothers me that this movie, because it's like in its indie glory where it's like, oh, but I want to feel things, is so obsessed with this relationship between these two people. Because I do think that the relationship between the husband and wife could be interesting,
I agree.
but I stop giving a fuck.
Yeah.
When there's clearly something that needs to be addressed right there. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do know what you mean.
That's what bothers me. Like, I understand what you mean in terms of the pacing and the attention, but for me, it's more like there's clearly something more interesting.
Yes.
So why should I give a fuck about these people?
Yes.
Because I want to know more about this.
It was also, it seemed like to me that our buddy Joe, our buddy Johansson, had the idea,
Yeah.
and maybe some other people too. I don't know how this script was workshopped. Had the idea. Okay, so what if there's a lamb girl that was born at the beginning, then at the very end, the father, that's a ram man, kills the adoptive quote unquote father. Shit, I have to put something in between that.
Yeah,
What am I gonna do?
Yeah.
Oh well.
Well, also, I think a lot of what comes into play is that they're thinking to themselves, okay, this is really cool, these two things,
Yeah.
but I don't want to follow that character.
Yes, conceptually, if we just looked at the concept of this movie, this movie is brilliant. It's great.
There's
it's
so
fun.
many
it's nice. It's
missed
cool.
opportunities.
Yeah.
I thought that the first moment, like the real inciting incident, was the fact that a half lamb, half like a human baby was born.
Yes.
But you don't even know that the baby is half human, half lamb
Yes.
until like way later. You know what I mean?
And so let's enter a conversation, Mac. This is going to be an interesting conversation. And the question is, what is the duty of trailers? So, Mac.
Oh, true. This was a fucked trailer. This was dumb.
So,
Because it got us to see it.
yes. So that's the best part about that trailer.
That's it,
That
though.
trailer had us buy the tickets
Yeah.
to this film. How
True.
much, how much revenue they got from our ticket, God knows.
I paid $2 for my ticket.
I paid more. And but with that being said, very good trailer, right? I would say that's a really good trailer. At least the one that I saw.
Same.
And then you find out when you're watching the movie, as you're watching the movie, oh my god, the trailer spoiled everything.
Yeah.
I know exactly what's going to happen.
There's only
in this
one
movie.
moment that I didn't get from the trailer, and that was the Ram Man.
Yeah.
And I was genuinely shocked by that.
Yeah.
I was mouth dropped in the theater, which we'll talk
Well,
about.
because the trailer indicates there is a sort of monster thing. And you can tell by the trailer, ooh, somebody's probably going to die. And that looks like a guy's hand. And so once Peter exits the movie, then you think, okay, it's probably Ingvar. Okay, and then he's going to lose Ada somehow. Okay. But then you also in the trailer, you're able to figure out pretty easily. This is a lamb, half human.
Oh, it's clear as day.
And so when you have the entire first act be about, oh, that's weird, they're taking care of this lamb. Why are they taking care of this lamb? That seems very peculiar. Why when they just leave the lamb in
But we're
the barn?
already fully aware because we saw the fucking trailer that
Yeah.
it's half baby.
Yeah.
We're like, okay, get to the. I already know.
And so there's supposed to be a reveal of that, and the reveal was completely neutered by the fact that it was shown in the trailer.
Yeah.
That it was shown in the trailer. Now,
Bad move.
this is it's a very thin line to walk.
Yeah.
The best example that I can think of the sort of expectation versus reality that worked out really, really well, but didn't work out monetarily well, funnily enough, is a video game called, and it's kind of it's such a bad name for a video game, Spec Ops: The Line. The most generic name you could have thought.
Yeah, I
could have thought of.
I'm getting nothing.
And it was sort of advertised as a pretty generic sort of shooter, right?
Yeah.
And then what actually came of it from the story was that it asked very serious questions about like war crimes and like what is war, and
cool.
that like actually the main character is like having these visions throughout the thing, and actually like uses white phosphorus and kills a bunch of civilians like halfway through, but he tells himself that it's not real. Like it's like a sort of psyche things of like what goes on for like some of these people in war. And so like the storytelling was done really well, and it juxtaposed really well against the trailers and the advertisings for it to be pretty generic in terms of its storytelling. When you have a movie like this, that it gives all the spoilers from the front end, and then but it got us to the theater, right?
Yeah.
And so in part it was a success, right? Because nobody bought Spec Ops: The Line. Everybody was like, "Oh, the story's good. Okay, I'll watch it on YouTube."
Yeah.
But with this, it got us to the theater for Lamb. It got us to the theater, and then we're like, "Oh, shit! I already watched the whole movie in like a minute and a half."
Right. Well, also, for the funny thing is that the trailer there were certain parts of the trailer that were unclear. Okay, really, honestly, the whole trailer could have been saved by them taking out one shot, and that was. It could have been, from the trailer, all the things they showed us, it could have been that they were just taking care of this lamb.
Yeah.
That it was just like an actual lamb.
I hit my mic. I'm so sorry. That's a fine.
Oh, come on, man. We need to start actually penalizing that, because we both do it so much that needs to be a bit. They really only show them taking care of the lamb, right? So if they showed the couple taking care of the lamb and the mother of the lamb clearly being pissed, like, and that being a thing, and keeping the eerie nature of the cinematography, that's all you really need to show that it's going to be a psychological thriller about this couple that raises the lamb.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
But the one shot that fucks us is
sorry.
the one shot of, like, the back shot of the lamb head on the human, like, standing child body holding the hand of the father.
It fucks the entire thing.
That one shot is like...
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what did you just say?
And I'm okay, like, I'm okay with, the trailer showing off that there's a monster involved. There's something spooky and scary involved with this.
Yeah.
Totally fine with that. But if your trailer ruins the entire first act, ruined, because there's a reveal at the end of the first act. If it ruins the entire first act, sizzle serve. This movie, honestly, partially because of the trailer, this movie would have been better if the entire first act was cut.
Agreed. If we just started there, yeah.
If we just started at the beginning of the second act, and then what happens is sort of Piotr becomes like a protagonist of sorts, and is actually our entryway into this world, the movie is infinitely more interesting, because we're kind of seeing it through Piotr's like sort of like fractured lens in a way, but like he's able to be human enough to be like, this is fucking weird.
The other big stuff is like there were so many weird things in terms of like I whenever I saw the trailer, I thought it was going to be a different story than it was. I
thought there was going to be a story.
I thought that the story that I made up in my head, I think, was actually more interesting than what I ended up seeing, which is I thought that the lamb wasn't actually half lamb, half human, but that's just how the parents saw it. And so whenever Piotr shows up, it's not a matter of like, what the fuck is going on? Like, are we not going to talk about the fact that this is half lamb, half baby?
Yeah.
I thought that the lamb was actually a lamb, but they were just treating it like a baby to like they were going crazy. And so Piotr was like, it's a lamb, right? But he's not looking at like a lamb standing on 2 feet. He's looking at a lamb that's actually on all fours, like just a regular ass lamb.
Yeah, and so then the question is like, why this lamb? And so then it becomes more psychological in that way.
Yeah, well, and that would be a lot easier because then the story can be about the couple and doesn't bother me because there's not a million fucking unanswered questions by having a half human, half lamb baby there the whole time.
Once again, more than willing to suspend the disbelief the fact that there is a half lamb, half human baby.
Let's just talk about it.
I don't give a shit. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I'm not having trouble buying it, or else I wouldn't have come seen the movie.
Exactly.
It's just a matter of there's a conversation that's being skipped. Another thing is I'm okay. Like I know that I'm gonna go back to a point that I made earlier, which is whenever you're talking about, okay, we can't have the lamb child as the protagonist. We can't be following that character.
Yeah.
I kind of beg to fucking differ because
I mean, I didn't
actually
say that, but you're misquoting me. That's
no. That's me. That's me. I'm talking about. I was assuming that they had that conversation in the production room.
Sure. Yeah.
But the actuality is, I think that the lamb child actually could have been a really interesting character to have made a larger one. They really tried their hardest. I think it might have been a budget thing that they didn't want to show the lamb all that much, like the face of the lamb. But I gotta say, the moments where you actually are tracking the lamb's experience, and not even just the child, but even the fucking, like the mom lamb, like the real life lamb that they filmed.
Yeah.
All those scenes were infinitely more interesting to me than any of the scenes that were happening with the humans.
Yeah, I agree.
Because I could track the experience without getting a single word. You know, like, whenever the 3 most interesting moments in the entire thing for me.
Hit it.
Top 3 without a shadow of a fucking doubt. And you can come after me for this. Like, I really thought about this. First one is whenever the baby lamb child thing looks at itself in the mirror. That moment, chef's kiss.
Yes,
beautiful.
I'm with you.
The moment when the baby lamb is over her human dad that just got shot. And you see on the lamb's face it having to struggle between like it having a human and emotional experience. Yeah. And it knowing that like it's not going to anymore now. But like in that moment, that was the most human that animal baby thing ever looked. And that was amazing. Yes. That happened. And then the last one for me was whenever the human mom has a showdown with the lamb mom. And the lamb mom is like screaming at the window and the human mom starts yelling at it and then ends up shooting it.
So you're saying when there's conflict in the film, it gets interesting.
But only with the fucking animals. Only the animals. It's the animals that were interesting, and I wish that they would have leaned into that more.
Let's go to break. The funniest part about all of our discussions, the acting is also really good.
It is. It really,
the acting
really
is just genuinely good, genuinely solid. The script is just abysmal.
Yeah.
Because
on a scene-to-scene basis, it's not that bad. It's just overall, the arc of the story is garbage. I mean, how many times have we had this fucking conversation with A24 films? Like, so...
Well, how many A24 films have we seen? Because we've seen... Hold on. So there was the Florida Project. That was A24, correct?
That was our main critique with Florida Project.
There was an overlying arc to the story, which... Listen, I was more okay with that one. I don't know if that's because of my Floridian sensibilities, but I was more okay with that one because I felt like there was actual character that was happening throughout the film.
There was actual character, I'll give you that. But at the same time, there was not really a beginning, middle, end. It did not follow any conventional storytelling structure whatsoever. Yeah. And I think that was part of the experiment. Like that seems to be not like but like a defining feature of A24 films.
And like just challenging the idea of like, what is storytelling? What are movies? Yeah. Right. And I'm generally like on a just sort of general basis, I'm cool with that.
I'm okay with the experiment. But it is really difficult to follow sometimes. Because it's an experiment, because it's such a new way of thinking about movies, there's not really a good way to do it yet.
Yeah.
There's only the experiment, right?
Yeah.
So this one, absolutely. I can go out on a limb and go ahead and say Last Black Man in San Francisco. I would say the exact same about. I would Jojo Rabbit was I.
Oh, that's right. Our episode 0 that was never released. Jojo Rabbit.
Yeah.
Oh, I've seen
yeah.
8th grade. Oh wow. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna.
Eighth
I need you
grade.
to filibuster a little bit for me. I need to look into this.
Oh yes, sir. Actually, jumping off your comment on the actors. I actually have with me an article that I found on the Lamb, Lamb, that is absolutely maddening. And
Yes.
I would really like to talk about what the contents of the article, because it talks about how, just like we just talked about, how good the actors are and how trash and truly, truly frustrating it must have been to work with this director, our boy Joe. Go ahead.
Before we get into Mr. Johansson, Tusk.
Is A24?
It's distributed.
You're
by
kidding.
A24.
You are joking. Wow, so we've seen more A24 movies than we think.
Yeah, I'm still gonna keep looking into it, but yeah, I've
Into
seen
which-
Ex Machina, I've seen Lady Bird. Like, I mean, there are definitely
Lady Bird's an
better
excellent
movies.
example of a movie that has very little story arc, but has very vivid character.
Yeah, and although I haven't seen it yet, like Moonlight, for example, I mean,
Moonlight's
there are
another
plenty
great
of
example
like
of
great
unclear story
films.
with great characters and great moments.
Yeah, I mean, but like
Martin
yeah,
Scorsese would have been a A21 director. If
A21?
A24. My bad, sorry.
That's
Forever
fine.
21. It is a fine. He would have been A24 director if that was a thing whenever he was making movies.
I mean, maybe
originally.
is it Sizzle?
No, I think that's pretty clear. Like, Martin Scorsese is a guy that cares very little about story and cares much more about moments. He's said that a million times. He's like, I
Alright,
direct
fair.
movies for moments, not
Yeah.
for story.
But I feel like the difference. I mean, I've not seen a lot of Scorsese films. I think I've only seen 2. The difference between Scorsese, from what I've seen, and Lamb is that like the characters though are really, really strong, and the moments are really, really strong, and the moments are connected through the characters. And so that's where you get the story, right? There's not a very, strict cohesive story in like The Wolf of Wall Street, for example,
True.
and kind of in The Departed as well, right? But the characters are so strong and the moments are so strong, and what that allows is that because the characters are so strong and the moments are strong, that everything sort of tracks for those characters.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? In terms of their like emotional
Yeah. The story is
mental
less
journey.
about 1, 2, 3,
Yeah.
beginning, middle, end, and it's more about, well, this thing happened to this character, so then they did this,
Yes.
and then this happened, so they did this, and then this happened, so they did this, and you're okay with going as long as. But the problem with that style of storytelling, that style of movie making,
Yeah.
is that
Those end up
after
being
like the
pretty
first,
long also.
right? That's it.
Scorsese.
Even if they're only like they could be an hour, 15 minutes. They could be
Yeah.
tiny movies,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
The Green Knight. The Green Knight wasn't that long.
Yeah.
I think it was like hour 45 or something. But that type of movie, after the first 3 or 4 moments that happens, that you're like, oh, and then this happens, and then they go on this journey. You're like, is this gonna end? Like, this is exhausting because there's not a question that I need answered by the end. You know what I mean? Like most of the time, the thing that makes beginning, middle, end movies is that at the beginning you are issued a question, and you get the answer to that question at the very last moment of the movie or near the end of the movie, and that's the ending, right?
Sure.
Whereas here, there wasn't ever really a question that was put. You weren't like,
Talking about Lamb now?
Huh?
Talking about Lamb?
Yes.
now? Okay.
I am not really sure at any point in Lamb what I'm waiting for.
Yeah, bro, this was the longest 100 minutes of my life.
Right. Where it's like, I don't know how to say it better than I don't know what I'm waiting for. Am I waiting for them to not be her parent anymore? Am I waiting for Peter to mess something up? Like, I don't know.
Because what I was waiting for was moments in the trailer. That's what I was waiting
Yeah.
for. I was not waiting for like what's going to happen in this film. I was not waiting for
I really
any
wish
of that.
one of us I wish I would have thought of this before. I really wish one of us saw it without seeing the trailer, because I'm sure that was a different. I don't know if that would have been better or worse, to be honest.
I think we would have thought of the movie more highly, easily.
I hope. Well, yeah, but also we would have gotten tired really fast. Yeah,
but but Mac, it's the thing where the trailer ruined the first act of the film.
Yeah.
Ruined.
Here's a question for you. So this is supposed to. Whoops.
That's a fine.
Oh, big fine.
Okay, we'll have to talk about this.
Yeah,
off microphone. But I have a few ideas.
Because I think we can make this fun.
Yeah.
What was I gonna say? Sorry. So Jesus Christ, this really got me off.
Woof, that's bad.
This movie is a psychological thriller / suspense movie.
Okay, yeah.
Some people call it a horror movie, but the director calls it a movie of suspense.
Yeah, I would not call this a horror movie. It's like fear of the unknown, I guess. But
that's what I'm about to say. Was there ever a moment where you were? I won't even say afraid. I'm just going to say, was there ever a moment where you were viscerally feeling something?
Okay. Bold assumption to think that I was even interested at any point that could have elicited that emotion.
There were a few moments for me.
But let's assume that I was interested. That the movie didn't lose me in the entire first act.
True.
And just couldn't save me after that, except for like scenes with Peter. Elicited an emotional reaction from some sort of horror. Probably just the very end, I guess, where like Ingvar is just like having the bullet wound right there and is looking at this creature. Like, I think it's that sort of like unknown for him experiencing as a character, like what the hell is happening right now, and I'm about to die and I don't know what to do and I'm about to lose my life in more ways than one right now. I think that's the only time where I had the sort of like visceral reaction of like something is being lost, and that is terrifying. I wouldn't say looking at the Ram Man particularly scared me in any way. It was also like maybe there was I think there was a little bit of build up, but did not feel like there was any sort of build up to the very end of this film. All like the Maria and Ingvar are just like sort of separated physically, not in the sort of emotional sense. And so then they're kind of playing, it's sort of like a farcical sort of thing where like, oh, you're not in this room, I leave. And then the other person comes in, oh, you're not in this room, and then they leave, So it's like the switcheroo sort of thing. It just felt like that. So like it felt very human in that sense, but it didn't feel like there was a sort of build up in the storytelling sense of, oh shit, okay, Ingvar is dead and the Ram Man has a gun. I couldn't even track where the gun, like, so where he got the gun either. I guess it was Chekhovian that we know there's a gun, but whatever. So sorry. I mean,
No.
All of that to say that
right.
was hell of a tangent.
No,
I
you're
just
good,
went
you're
on. You should have
There
cut me off.
There was a train. No, I'm with you.
But like that was
that
was the most sort of like reaction that
I'm
I got
actually
from
going
this
to say
film.
that that's our first disagreement. Is that
Finally.
I disagree with you
because
there.
we've been agreeing about
Too
everything.
Yeah, and that is not usual. For me, it was actually I was getting mad near the end of the movie.
Oh, me too.
Because I was thinking to myself, something's about to happen, and I'm not going to care because I don't give a fuck about these people.
Yeah.
And that made me mad.
Yes.
And then, in the last 5 minutes of the movie,
Okay.
all of it, I don't even know why, not like a baby, but there was a tear that fell down my face.
Wow.
Only in one moment.
Wow.
And that was whenever, because like he gets
this
shot.
This is genuine surprise for me.
No, it was just a shock for me too, which is why I bring it up. And I told this to Shama whenever we were talking about it.
Who's Shama?
Your girlfriend. My friend. Your girlfriend. That I'm watching, and the bullet hits his neck, like you said, and it's actually the shot that I mentioned earlier. Whenever the lamb girl is looking at her dad.
She does have a name, Ada.
Ada is looking at her dad.
For those of you who are not watching, it's as if like Mac's eyes rolled, but his entire body rolled. Like it was that sort of like whatever.
I was taken aback by the the absolute gall of Damon
The
Chazelle just now.
unmitigated gall.
Thank you, Stephen A.
And so yeah, he has the bullet in
His
his
bullet
neck,
in his
and
neck
Ada is there.
And whenever Ada is looking at him, just her face is so human that it kind of freaks me out. And that's whenever I kind of started tearing up. And it's because of this one thing. I am a sucker for, and this is actually, it has nothing to do with the movie being excellent. It's because I am a sucker for people and characters, but mainly people that have thoughts and opinions that are unable to express themselves. I'm a sucker for that. I don't know why. Anytime, and this is real, I don't think this is like a weird thing to say, but because it's taken me a long time to come to terms with this. But are you nervous?
No, I'm just listening.
But every single time that I see a kid at school or in public or anything like that with Down syndrome, I get emotional. Like, I have to stop myself because knowing that there are a couple studies done a while back on kids with Down syndrome that were talking about how they are fully aware and they can understand complex concepts and they can hear everything that you said. Like, there's no actual developmental issue other than communication. So just the idea that someone can fully think but not be able to ever express themselves their entire lives,
It's harrowing.
I can't think of a worse reality. And that really brings me down. Like, that hits me at my core. And so the same moment where this very, very, very human Ada Lamb baby thing.
More human than her parents.
Honestly, more human than her parents.
Not because of the acting.
Because of how bad the characters were.
I think that was the worst rip.
That was the worst, I agree.
Holy shit.
More human than her parents. That she's having a seriously human experience, but will never... she has no say in it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a great moment.
And
that's a fantastic
that really
moment.
hit me. Just seeing her face, and then she looks up at her a biological dad, to be assumed.
Yeah.
And just her face knowing that there's nothing she can do about the fact that her dad just died and she's going to have to go with this stranger. That hit me, like that moment. Yeah. But again, like I said earlier, that was an interpretational shot.
Yeah.
That was something that I prescribed the shot, not that the shot actually gave me. And that bothers me.
I mean, sure, but I felt like that shot was pretty clear, or like clear in terms of like her emotional experience. I think it's very likely you prescribed
but the thing that made
her
me
not
feel,
being able to emote.
Right. The thing that made me feel something was something that I did in my head. Not
okay, there we go.
Yeah.
Because I do want to commend that shot for that's a great storytelling moment.
It's a great shot.
For that lack of character.
Absolutely. Oh no. You are being mean.
I'm astounded. I'm astounded when a movie can be 100 minutes and feel like a lifetime.
Yes.
And I'm also astounded when a great movie can be like 3 hours and it feels like 2 seconds.
Yes.
You know?
True. This should be a fine in of itself.
Okay.
Back to the article I mentioned maybe 10 minutes ago.
You at least mentioned it and it came back to it. There have been times in previous episodes where
I'm sure it's mostly me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's also me too, but
we mentioned something.
We kind of like dip our toes into something and then we run away and then we jump into another pool.
Right.
This article
is it's from Inverse. Yeah. It's from Inverse. It's about the director of Lamb. And it talks to it's about an interview with the director as well as interviews with the actors. Yeah. Right?
We lost the camera feed. What happened? Talk me through it.
I have no idea. I genuinely have no idea. But I'll keep talking through it here.
All right. For our audio listeners.
Yeah, for our audio listeners. I guess they're gonna get a fun
hopefully more stick figures.
I know, really. So the director and the actors, it's an interview with them, right?
Joey.
And it talks about our guy Joe, and it talks about the people that were interviewing them post the premiere of the movie, and talking about what their
that's when the tea is finished steeping, and that's when you sip it. Ooh.
Yeah,
so
they're at a Q&A, and someone's asking them about the ending of the movie, right? And the response from our guy Joe is the most frustrating response I can possibly think of to a question,
Okay.
especially from an artist's perspective, and it just grinds my gears. I'm really upset about it.
And what's that
It is
quote?
this.
Are you quoting right now?
No, the question is something along the lines of what was the ending of the movie?
Okay.
What was your take on it? What do you think the movie was about? What do you think it symbolized? Why did it have to end that way?
Uh-huh.
And our guy Joe said, and this is a direct quote, "It can stand for so many things. Even I've changed my mind after watching the film so often. But it can stand for nature. It can stand for so many things. I feel everybody has to take their own understanding of it." I fucking hate that.
What a great non-answer. That
I know.
reminds me of like NFL coaches.
Yeah. Well, no. But they have a reason for it because they don't want to tell people what they're actually thinking. They don't want to tell the opposition what their plays are. They don't want to tell them about their strategy. And that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
But an artist, I understand if an artist says, that's up to you.
Yeah.
But in this, he says himself, I don't know. That fucking pisses me off.
That does, yeah.
It's like, if you don't know what your movie's about,
then why should we bother?
And this is maybe the funniest part of the article to me, which is it goes on to talk about how they also were talking to Noomi Rapace, the actor who plays Maria, who, as we can agree, did a pretty damn good job.
I would say so, yeah.
And whenever they asked her the exact same question, she had an extremely in-depth answer explaining what she thought the ending meant, as well as what the ending meant in terms of the character of Maria, what that moment was for her. And it just becomes so vividly clear that Noomi Rapace did such a good job.
Yeah.
She did everything that an actor could possibly do to make this a good performance. And the director didn't. Or, sorry. The director. The director did not.
Yeah.
And that's mind-boggling. She talks about how, and it's actually really cool. She talks about how the direct quote is, when we meet her, this is Noomi Rapace talking about Maria. When we meet Maria, she's not living. She's surviving. When Ada is born, it becomes a gift, like oxygen for her body and soul.
Yeah.
She knows Ada will only be there for as long as she needs. She somehow always knew the Ram Man was there and that Ada will be taken away from her.
Okay, that was not clear.
No, I agree.
I was like,
this
everything was tracking, and then you said Ram Man. I'm like,
but whenever I read this first time, the more I thought about it, the more I was like, it makes total sense to me that Noomi Rapace had that in her mind the whole performance, but that was not what the director wanted. That's not the story that the director wanted to tell.
Yeah.
Because whenever I think about the moments that she had, okay, that does make sense.
Because you said that, like, she always knew the Ram Man sort of thing. And so, like, that actually makes the first scene when they help give birth to Ada, that makes that, it's sort of like, to me, like, a first scene, like, a little bit clearer of, like, we have to take advantage of this opportunity now.
Yeah. Right. But the problem is that even though she has made that decision, the director did not.
Yeah.
The director clearly did not make that decision.
The director and who also in part wrote the script did not.
Right.
Wow, holy shit.
And so she goes on to say, she talks about her grandmother and how her grandmother, not Maria's, but Noomi talks about how the actress, her grandmother, told her lots of folk tales about how, because she grew up on an Icelandic farm, Noomi Rapace did, which is why she was given part. Yeah. And her grandmother would always talk about how, like, there's, like, a balance in nature and, like, don't mess with the fairies because, like, what's theirs is theirs and what's ours is ours and all this stuff, right? And so she goes on to say, Maria takes something that is not hers because she needs to heal. She doesn't see him. She doesn't see the Ram Man, but she knows. That's why in the end, her pain is released. The pain of being in a stale relationship with a person she does not love. Her pain of having lost her child and living in the pain of her child being lost. Her pain is released. She's breathing again. She's alive. It's the beginning of a new chapter. It's extremely painful, but she is there in that moment.
I'm thinking about her acting performance And I'm like, that tracks the entire time.
That's what I'm saying.
And it does not track directorially
Not at fucking all.
or textually.
So if this, and this is why,
Wow.
and this is where my sizzle
This is
serve.
astounding.
This is where my sizzle serve comes into play.
Okay.
Because, as you know,
Mm.
what is the difference between theater and film in terms of the mediums? The film world is an actor to director medium,
Mm-hmm.
and the theater world is an actor to writer medium.
Mm-hmm. Oh, could you explain that?
Of course.
Just
Yeah, of course. That in films, the most important relationship, the most important line of dialogue is what happens between, or the relationship that is had between the directorial choices of that film, cinematography, or the editing or whatever of that film, and the actor's performance.
The storytelling through how it's shot and done.
Right. Whereas in theater, the most important line of dialogue, the most important communication is between the actor and the script. Because what you're watching at the end of the day, although plenty of directorial decisions are made in theater, and although plenty of writer decisions are made in film, clearly, that dialogue is the most important. That is what gives the life to the...
Yeah, the director helps give life to the script, yeah.
Right. That, like, in film, the writer is there to help the director talk to the actor, whereas in theater, the director is there to help the actor understand the script.
Yeah.
I think that this is my sizzle serve.
Okay.
I think this would have been an infinitely better play. Because it should have been, after I heard that explanation from the actress, I want to see Noomi Rapace perform, not the director jerk off cinematography.
I'm with you.
You know what I mean?
I'm with you, and I think just sort of like those characters going through those experiences silently does not work as well on film as it just generally does in person, right?
Yeah.
Because when you're in like a theater in the sense of like where plays are done, and when there is like a silence in there, it's very different than a silence in a movie theater, right? And like the silence in a movie theater is super duper rare, where you can hear a pin drop, right? Super rare.
Yeah.
But, and so then in sort of where theatrical plays are done, it's a lot more common, but it's a lot more sort of effective, and like it's used more often because it's much more potent, as opposed to silence on film. And so when you're working with that silence, and what you are hearing is like the breath. I also want to give credit to the sound designer in this movie as well. The sound design in this film is terrific. I did not look up the sound designer, forgive me. But I do think the sound design in this movie is effective because of the lack of dialogue, which there should have been dialogue. I'm still criticizing the movie for that. But them working through silence works a lot better on stage because you're also watching the actors the entire time.
Yeah.
You're not looking at landscapes or their backs for the most part or anything like that. You're watching the actors go through a process. I much rather watch a version of this if the script remains the same, where I'm actively watching the actors the entire time going through process, as opposed to continually not seeing them.
Yeah.
Continually it being just something else like the director wants to say or something like that. Like I guess like I just want to see character. I want to see character, and I didn't get that through the movie.
There was such, and I think what aggravates us so much is that there was such opportunity. There was such opportunity to make something that really was a beautiful character-driven drama, and it just wasn't. It wasn't at all. And that was sad and frustrating. But before we get your pick for next week, I would love to detail to you my experience in the theater.
Oh, yes,
because it was really funny.
Please go ahead.
So I went to a movie theater in Garland. I don't know if you know. I don't think you know what that is.
Garland, Texas. I mean, I know of Garland, but like my geography of the DFW Metroplex is so
I think I'm not out of line when I say it is really very commonly known as not the nicest place in the world.
Okay,
if you know what I mean. And
sure.
To the point where it would be a little intimidating at night. I didn't think much of that because I don't really care, and I've grown up in the area. So I go to the movie theater in Garland at on Monday night at 7:30 p.m. like a dummy, and I went because that was just the best time for me to go. I go and it's a $2 ticket because it's Monday family night, so the families are coming out to pay $2 a ticket. I go into Lamb, which I can go ahead and tell you right now, spoiler alert, this is not a family movie. So I was there nearly alone.
It's about a family.
I know. I walk in the theater. I'm like, oh, thank fuck I'm alone. I turn directly to my right and say, oh, because there is one man in the entire theater, and he is alone at the very back by himself in the corner. And
creepy.
Super creepy. He has a baseball cap on that is like covering his eyes. And so I'm like, that's super fucking sketchy, right? I go and sit down in the theater.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of freaked out, but I've made plenty of space between me and this guy, right? I walk in as the A24 logo comes on. So I like just make it. I'm watching it. We're like 5-ish minutes into the movie. Like plenty of time has passed. I'm not thinking about this guy anymore. But then I hear this noise. Like it's kind of like creaking noise. Like not in the movie, but like in the theater. And I'm like, what? And so I look back. Like I kind of like glance back. And this man has moved from the corner of the theater to directly behind me. Is that not terrifying? And I got so freaked out and paranoid that the jacket that I had on had a collar on it. And I popped the collar because what I was thinking was if this guy was to try and slice my throat from behind, he would have a harder time if my collar was up. That's how scared I was, right? I'm sitting there and this guy is right behind me and I'm like, oh fuck, it's about to go down, right? A couple minutes pass, I'm hyperventilating, right? And I very briefly glance over my shoulder.
I wish it would have been like a weird movie, right?
I know, just struck up conversation.
Yeah, just, break the ice.
People are way less likely to kill if they feel a personal connection. So I look over my shoulder again after a couple more minutes have passed, and he's not there anymore. So I saw him behind me. A couple more minutes passed. He is now not behind me anymore. Which is genuinely the only thing that's more scary than him being behind me. Because where the fuck is he, Danny? Where the fuck is he? And I'm not joking. I'm not joking at all when I say, because I was the only one in the theater. I look back. He wasn't behind me. I out loud said the words, oh, hell no. And I stand up, and there's like a good couple minutes of the movie that I didn't get because I spent a couple minutes looking through every single aisle of the movie theater to make sure that he wasn't there anymore. Because I was like, he's about to pop out and get me. Like that, I was so terrified, man. I was so scared. And then I sit down and watch the rest of the movie. But the funniest part is that you know where I sat to watch the rest of the movie? In the back where he was. Because that's honestly the smartest and safest place to sit, because there's no one that can sit behind me because I'm in the back. There's no one that can sit like to my side because I'm like up in the corner. Like I'm at the advantage. You know what I mean? Anyways, so
the student becomes the teacher.
Truly, That's good, man. So the suspense of the movie, I would say, was at a 10, but it was purely because of my movie watching experience.
No, it sounds like your story was more interesting than the movie itself.
Truly. Which is why, honestly, I might have only gotten attached to the last 5 minutes because that was the only few minutes of the film that I wasn't actively panicked. It was weird, man, and I couldn't find the guy. There was only like a couple people at the entire theater, and I never saw the guy again. He might be with me right now in my car. I don't know.
Mediocre film.
Yeah.
Don't bother.
Yeah.
Honestly, just don't bother. If you want to see Noomi Rapace do a great performance, sure.
Yeah.
But like, there's got to be something else that she's great in.
And there are so many. There are so many good A24 movies. There are so many good movies where you can learn about cinematography. There are so many movies that represent silence in a better way that, like, I don't really know what you could get from this movie that you don't get somewhere else. You know what I mean? So just hit us up if you want a recommendation on something specific. But this one's not it.
It's a long 100 minutes, which is a
yeah.
weird sentence.
No, it's true. It's a lengthy 100 minutes, and there's maybe okay. Here's one. If you want to watch an Icelandic film, I'm sure it's one of the better ones.
Yeah,
It must be
it's highest grossing.
highest
so.
grossing. Must be reputable in some way. That's
Yeah.
the best I can give it. Danny Lavelle, what are we viewing next week?
Oh, we're gonna close another loop. So, for example, like last time,
Oh, are we gonna?
what happened?
Are
well-
we gonna watch another?
Well, don't cut
go
me
ahead,
off.
sorry.
Jesus
Sorry.
Christ! I mean, ridiculous. And then I should have also not responded to you. That was my fault too. But for example, we watch Red Cliff to sort of close the loop on like stories that revolve around the Three Kingdoms, and so like now I'm just kind of interested in like sequels and stuff to things that have already been made, and so then, well, why don't we close the loop on the University of Miami?
Oh, part 2.
There is the U Part 2, also done by Billy Corbin.
That was a fun episode. I'm down.
So I mean, well, I hope you would be.
Yeah, no. I think that'd be fun.
So I mean, just to close the loop and see, and I think it'll be interesting to sort of look at juxtaposing the two documentaries, see what's done better, and just like the overall storytelling of it. And it's another ESPN 30 for 30, and for the most part, you can't really go too wrong with those. So
No.
I don't know. I just kind of want to see where that one takes us, because I haven't seen that one, and like I said, I just want to see where that takes us. Sorry, there's no 2 Minute Morning. Just happens.
Yeah. I mean, that's what happens whenever the
Camera just
turns off.
dies. Yeah.
Then we don't even have a timer anymore. Honestly, we don't even have to end. Let's just fuck around for a while.
No.